yet right about some point after fertilization. If it is correct to say that life begins at fertilization, why would one suggest that a human life begins at viability or birth? Perhaps it was more difficult for participants to reject what they had believed to correct statement in the multiple choice question rather than to write about an incorrect statement in response to the essay prompt.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was referencing.
This discrepancy works together with pro-choice biologists' overall willingness to write that a human's life begins at viability or birth to suggest that some pro-choice biologists were motivated to provide an essay response that was congenital on their abortion beliefs.
See, but he has no proof of that, so he can't validate that.
I think his proof was before context-driven, it looks like here. Before, like, it was an argument made through abortion. They affirmed the view that it began at whatever point. However, once given an opportunity to affirm a ideological belief that is separate from when human life begins, they changed their answer.
Or it could have been a change in the understanding of definition of
Also,
when life
when you say
begins.
biologists didn't agree, the 68% is just pro-choice biologist. It's not biologists as a whole.
Yeah, you still got biologists. So you're making assumptions.
But anyway, so
can't-
no, it's
Yeah,
not.
you're
So
absolutely
even
right.
under your study, even what you're trying to present me here, it is not 68% of biologists who think it begins at fertilization. It was directly 68% of pro-choice. And that was after a discrepancy in which some of those pro-choice biologists said it does begin at fertilization.
Have a look at the difference between the assertions.
I'm looking at it right now.
You're interrupting me because you're not understanding which questions I'm referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the table where it goes from question 1 to 5 and see the discrepancies between those 5 questions.
Looking at 1 through 5. Less than 5 questions.
So there was 5 questions,
Yeah.
and the answers or affirmations that you got from question 1 to question 5
Yep, here we go.
changes.
Implicit 1. The end of product of a mammalian fertilization is a fertilized egg. A new mammalian organism is the first stage of the species life cycle.
Well, not-
91% of percent of participants affirmed the statement. Question 2. The development of a mammal begins with fertilization, a process by which spermatozoon from the male.
Not listening.
You interrupted me.
No, I didn't.
I was reading the questions which you asked me to do.
I asked you to go have a look at the results.
Well, I need to know what the questions are before the results mean anything.
No, you don't, actually. Because that's not the point.
I need you to be good faith. Come on.
The development of a mammal begins with fertilization, a process by which the spermatozoon from a male to the oocyte of female to
Okay,
unite,
I really
given
need to
rise
go.
to
So
a
if you want to listen to me for a moment with regards to the point that I'm trying to make, is that if you go to the results table that shows you the difference in affirmations between question 1 and 5, what you will see is that there is a significant difference between how they affirm question number 1 to number 5, which means you have a significant difference of affirmations between those questions. And then when you have a look at the differences within those questions based on the different types of biologists, you will see that there's also a significant difference within the questions. So if you have a statistically significant difference between questions and within questions, that demonstrates no consensus within statistics.
Okay. I
And
guess
if your
just
friend
to
is-
be...
and if your friend is actually doing a biology degree, she should understand what I just said.
I believe she doesn't.
Wait, I'm not gonna lie. I was reading the questions. I wasn't listening to you.
Okay, well then I guess we're done because
Can
if
you
you're not
repeat it for
willing-
me?
Sure.
Were you listening to anything we were saying?
Absolutely. That's why I proved you wrong. Anyway, going forward, if you have a look at the table of results between questions and within questions, so it will give you a table that says affirmations for question 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then within that table, you will also see the number of biologists, so the different biologists and how they answered within the questions. From a statistical analysis perspective, if you have a statistically significant difference between questions and within questions, that demonstrates no consensus within that study.
You understand every single question that looks like that is asked here would be sufficient conditions for a life to begin at fertilization.
Not from
So
a-
when you
not
answer
from a-
yes,
not from a
when you
biological
answer yes
You
to
are
one of
wrong.
these,
Do you understand that you
I like
are
look
wrong?
here. We'll go through. We can go through the questions, right? The end of a product mammalian fertilization is a fertilized egg. A new mammalian organism is the first stage of its species life cycle.
With the
In the species
genome.
genome.
Correct.
With,
That's
not
the key
within.
thing.
With
That's Listen
its
to me.
species genome.
Listen, that question specifically refers to genome. That's what makes the questions inconsistent.
Wrong.
You must understand
Wrong.
the
With.
details that you...
Wrong,
No,
wrong,
I'm not
wrong on all accounts.
Again,
With
you don't have a science
species
degree, so you don't
genome.
understand the
I don't
difference of the
need a
questions.
science degree
Yes,
to
you
read this.
do. Yes, you do.
Oh, sorry.
Actually,
You need a science degree to read scientific studies and to be able to understand that?
yeah, absolutely.
Under what fucking logic did you get that out of your ass?
Basic common sense.
Basic concept. You need to have a scientific degree to understand a scientific study when they explain the fucking study to you.
That's not a scientific study,
Oh,
buddy.
no, okay. But apparently we needed a scientific
Stephen
degree to understand
Jacobs?
this. Apparently we did.
Steve-
That was not a scientific study. Fuck me, man. I don't know.
Exactly.
It seems like you're just
don't
all
know.
over the place this whole fucking conversation, and you're trying to cope with the fact that you cannot acknowledge basic facts.
What you can't acknowledge as a basic fact
What
is
I
that
can't
Stephen
acknowledge-
Jacobs
what I
is
can't
a
acknowledge
social
is you
studies
rejecting
PhD,
facts.
not science.
What
So
I
you're
can't
not even
acknowledge
educated.
is you
You're not even
rejecting
educated
facts.
on the matter. You're not even
What
educated. You don't
sorry,
even know what
wait,
studies
wait,
you're
wait,
looking at.
auntie, I don't need to be priorly educated. One, I was,
Yes,
but two,
you
I don't need to be
do.
priorly
You are
educated to
demonstrating
then
how
read a
ignorant
study.
you are. You
Auntie Fem, I don't need to be
You are
priorly
so
educated
fucking
to
ignorant.
then
You're
read a
reading
study.
a social
that tells
studies
me the
paper
facts.
and you think that's science fact.
Auntie,
Social studies, buddy. That's a
Auntie,
social studies
like,
paper.
I'm sorry.
not-
I'm sorry. Do you trust biologists when it comes to biology?
Absolutely.
When biologists answer yes to questions that would suggest that life does in fact begin at fertilization,
These questions to biologists
every
do not
question-
suggest when life begins.
Auntie Fem, you're confused.
sorry.
The question references either the beginning of the human's life cycle or the earliest stage of the human's life cycle, which I don't even see.
yeah, so like
But
first
there's
a huge
question,
distinction
first
between
stage of a
the two.
species life cycle.
Biology.
Second question, the development
With
of a
the
mammal
genome.
begins with fertilization. Question 3,
This
a
is why
mammal's
you
life
need a
begins
science
at
degree to
fertilization.
understand what you're
Question
talking about,
4,
'cause you don't know what you're
fertilization
talking
marks the
about.
beginning of human life. Question 5, a zygote, a human, it is a human organism developing at the earliest stages of the
Do you
human
understand the
life
difference
cycle.
between an implicit question and an
Every
explicit question?
single one
Do
is
you
implying
understand
the
difference
fact
bet-
that life begins at fertilization.
Do you understand
every
the
single
difference
one.
between an implicit question and an explicit question? Do you understand the difference between an
It
implicit
says
question and an
implicit
explicit-
statement, implicit statement, implicit statement,
the
explicit statement,
difference?
explicit
What's the
statement.
difference? What's the difference?
Holy
What's the
fucking
difference?
shit! Like, look, I
What's
don't know
the
how much
difference?
longer. I don't know how much longer
You
I can
don't know.
engage
Exactly.
with
You don't know.
What do you
You
mean? What do you
don't
mean
know.
exactly here? What do you mean exactly here? I am done, and I
Of course
specifically
you're
want to
done
say
because you're being
done
proven wrong and you're being
with some
proven to be ignorant
if
on
you
the matter.
think
You
if you
just proved
think me,
yourself
or, sorry,
ignorant
if
on
you
the
think
matter.
us providing you every other study under the book in which says it begins at fertilization, when we then go into your study in which you says proves us wrong, in which actually proves us right, you think then
Kian,
proves that we were
in
wrong.
science,
Then your conception
how
of
much evidence
wrong,
do you need to prove
your
something
conception
wrong?
of wrong
Who?
is very
Answer my
very
question.
confused.
In
Who?
science, if you have a bunch
Who?
of evidence saying one thing, but you get one piece of evidence proving it all wrong, which piece of evidence is correct?
If it actually is able to prove,
I'm not asking you. I'm asking
if
Kian.
you actually
Let her
Who?
answer the question.
I don't know who that is.
I'm sorry. Am I pronouncing your name wrong? I apologize. But I am speaking to you because you claim to have a science degree or working on one. So if you have a mountain of evidence, but one piece of evidence proves all that evidence wrong, which evidence is correct?
Yeah, I would say that if it's like a valid defeater to all the evidence provided prior, then I would probably go with that. But I mean, nothing you've given us is convincing. Nothing you've given us defeats
Stephen
anything that we've
Jacobs
said.